All right, and good morning again, everyone. This is Rosemary Jane, and I am here with the amazing Joelle McConnell. I'm going to go over our agenda real quick with you, and then we're going to do some brief introductions. So our agenda is on the second slide. I'll drop the link to the agenda in just a moment. Oh, somebody's unmuted. If you could mute, please. So we are going to be looking at using Google Chrome browser to access Read and Write.
Oh, somebody's kind of moving around in his face.
Someone is still unmuted, so yeah, if you could mute. Nope. Okay, just a minute.
Yeah.
Please do try to remember to keep yourself muted since we're recording. There we go. All right. Oops. All right, so we'll be talking about using using the Chrome extension Read and Write as it relates to your Stage 2 Distinguished Educator program. So we're going to dip into the Distinguished Educator program in a little bit. So we're going to look at using your Chrome browser, syncing, and the CPS Distinguished Educator Stage 2 statements on text readers. We'll talk briefly about what extensions are and district adequate extensions. I'll cover this. And then I'm going to hand it off to Joelle, who's going to cover Read and Write. What is Read and Write? A demonstration of how to use the tool. Some customization. She has some slides for you as well. We'll do our closing question and answer time. And of course, in the chat, we'll take questions as you add those. And you'll do your contact hours and feedback form. So with that, I'll just introduce myself. My name is Rosemary Jane. I do work with the Learning Technologies team for CPS, and my background is a K-3 self-contained teacher for 10 years. I've been in the district in September. It'll be 4 years in the district office in this role and on the Learning Technologies team. So I come to you as a background as a classroom teacher. I was a teacher in CPS. I taught first grade self-contained, and we are going to look at the Read and Write program in a minute. I'm going to mute myself and let Joelle introduce herself.
Good morning. My name is Joelle McConnell, and I work for the Department of Student Services through the Curriculum Access team. And for those of you who have never heard of the Curriculum Access team, sometimes we call ourselves CAT for short. Our whole goal is to help students with disabilities and gen ed teachers, intervention specialists, help those students be able to access the curriculum. So that's, in a nutshell, that's my role. I won't go through my background because I have about 20 years on Rosemary, and we would get till 1/4 before I could go through how old I am and what I've done.
She is an expert and years of experience, and so it's always a pleasure to get to work with Joelle. All right, let's talk briefly about the link to the agenda, which I'm dropping in the chat right now if you would like to follow along. That link is there, and so I'm going to delete this first one. After our cover slide, there is our agenda. So I do want to just briefly go over with you, in order to make this work, we are going to be focused on Read and Write and the Stage 2 skills, but you cannot access your Read and Write extension or any of the district extensions unless you make sure you are signed in and syncing to Chrome. So let's talk about that for a moment. Chrome is a web browser. Those of you who've been in my sessions before, I say it every single time. I recommend that when you are doing your work in Schoology, many of the apps that you use in the district, that you use the Chrome browser. You want to go up and make sure that you are signed in and sync is turned on. And so the way that you can access that is in the upper right-hand corner next to the 3-dot menu. And that 3-dot menu could be an icon or something. There's a button here. There is a profile image. I do want to point out that there are two. The one below is I'm signed into Google and Google Slides or Google Apps, but we're looking at this, this icon up here for the browser itself. You want to make sure you're signed in. Now, some things that you might see is a head and shoulders if no one is signed into the browser, or you might see someone else, another user, or you might be signed in and syncing to a personal account. Whenever you're doing your work in the district, we do recommend that you use the Chrome browser, you're signed in, and sync is turned on, but do make sure that that's to your CPS BOE account. All right, if you're not sure how to do that, if this is a Head and Shoulders, you would just click on it and you would click Turn on Sync. You can also access everything I just referred to in that 3 dot in the More menu. Go down to Settings, and you can see there who is signed on or who is syncing. Now, some other things that you could run into is sync could be paused. You would just turn back on sync. But when you do sign in and sync to Chrome, I recommend that you link your data. Linking your data pulls in all of your saved bookmarks, your browsing history, and enables you to access your saved passwords. So again, you want to sign in, make sure sync is turned on, and that when you initially turn on your sync, that you link your data. So those are all steps you can go through. And yes, I would recommend you go through them now. If it were to drop you off the meeting, if maybe, because sometimes when you clear out of one account, you may have to rejoin the meeting. If you wanted to wait to do that, just make sure you do it after this PD. All right, so that is the Chrome browser. Now, when you are signed in to your CPS BOE account, and this is for staff or students who are signed in to cincinnatips.org, there are some extensions that are automatically pushed out as a district. Bear with me 1 second. I just got to change something. Sorry. Whether it's you or your students, you are opening the power of extensions when you are signed in and syncing to Chrome. So one of those extensions that the district pushes out is Clever. That is our district portal. You can see the blue square with C for Clever on the inside. That's really the best way to access all your district apps, and that's a good habit or pattern for you to get into and establish with your students. Sign in and sync to Chrome and launch everything through Clever. But today we want to focus on the other application that the district has pushed out to everyone, and that is Read&Write. So I'm going to open up and I'm going to show you going through Clever. My view does appear slightly different than yours. Don't worry about that. But when you go to Clever and you launch Schoology, it takes you to the right login page. You want to make sure you're not launching Schoology via Schoology.com. I'm going to go into my Office of Curriculum and Instruction course and open up our Distinguished Educator program. All right, in stage 2, some of the practice statements that are referred to, and let me open up one of our documents with this. The stage 2 practice statements, and you will be able to access those when you are in stage 2. So I'm not dropping a link to that right now. We'd really like you to complete the program in sequential order. So if you're not there yet, it's okay, but this is a great training for you to attend using Read&Write in general, but I'm just making the connection to stage 2 for you now. So I'm in the stage 2 program, and I've opened up the practice statements. And right away in the top section, the administrative practice statements, one of those statements is, number 2, is I use a screen reader like Read&Write to support student needs and learning styles. Statement 3 is I use text types such as headings, subheadings, and paragraphs to enhance the capabilities of Read&Write and other screen readers. All right, so also in Schoology, although Read&Write isn't called out here, in Schoology, if you enhance your images with adding descriptive tags, Read&Write and other text readers can pick up those descriptions. So instead of it just saying image, it will say image of student ready to read. We gave that example in one of the other trainings I did. There's also another statement down in the instructional area. Give me just a second. Number 1 is I create accessible links to websites in Schoology. And we're going to talk a little bit about context and how you can make links more accessible so that screen readers like Read&Write can help it enhance your experiences. Now, if you're into stage 2, what you may have noticed is you are asked to complete your post-assessment with an 80% or better to open up your submission of evidence. However, if you read the submission of evidence, it does state that the goal is that you put into practice every statement and you are submitting evidence for one statement in each of the 4 areas. So today's PD is going to be especially important if you are working on earning that CPS Distinguished Educator stage 2 badge because there are two explicit statements that name screen readers, like Read and Write, and two implicit, the one about Schoology images and the other one about accessible links. So with all of that, I am going to hand this off to Joelle McConnell, who I know many of you know that I reference anytime I train on Google, anytime I talk about extensions. She is a wealth of knowledge. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen, and I'm now going to move over to serving as your chat moderator, and I'll be muting my side. So Joelle, if you could share your screen and take it away.
All righty. Thank you for that amazing introduction. And now I feel like I hope I can live up to even an eighth of that. I see a lot of people on here that I know. So good morning again, and thanks for joining us. Let me get to where we are. Just so you know, Rosemary shared that screen or the slide deck with you. If you are someone who wants to take notes, feel free to take notes, but know that we will stick around afterward to answer any questions. And there will be links to everything, training tools, tools for you to help your students. I even put a link to a case study in here as to why you would use Read and Write with your students. So I think you'll be okay, and know that Rosemary is also going to put this video into her YouTube site. So there will be ways to access all of this. So most of the slides are truly just quick information, and then I'm going to do a show and tell. So what is Read and Write? It is a tool that, like Rosemary said, is pushed out to all students in the district. And I can't emphasize all students enough. It is not a tool for students with disabilities. It is not a tool for only EL kiddos. It is a tool for all students. Our district feels so strongly about it that not only all students have access to this tool, but anybody who is a staff member. So your admin has access, your cafeteria personnel have access. Everybody has access to the tool. That's how strongly they believe in it. So we're going to go over three things real fast. Rosemary kind of touched on signing in. I'm going to show you the tools and want you to know that this Read and Write, it works on websites, it works on docs, and then it also works on PDFs. And that's what Rosemary was talking about, making items accessible for our students. So I'm going to go through all the tools. There is a wide range of tools available through Read and Write. So if you are someone who says, oh, I think my students already use it, or I know that it has a screen reader, I'm good. I don't need any help or guidance. I'm going to push you to really dive into the tools with me today to see how we can make our sites and docs more accessible for our kiddos. And know that this tool was built by TextHelp as a UDL tool. It was not built, like I said, for students with disabilities. So it helps all individuals with reading, vocabulary, writing, studying, research. I'm going to pass on this. Just know this slide is here. If you need help, Rosemary said already that it has been pushed out from the district. Know that sometimes there might be a little snafu, so you may need to go and install it, and that's okay. As you can see, there are three different icons here. This one for sure should be pushed out to everyone, but we do want the PDF reader and the screenshot reader, and you see these two over here on the right-hand side. Those two have not yet been pushed out by the district. Megan, I know you're on. If you want to take a little note, Christine and I were working on that right before we went remote in March. So these two may not be pushed out yet from the district, but we're working on that. But don't let that pause you or have a barrier. You can go to the Chrome web store and load them yourself. So this is just a slide.
So I'm actually adding the links to those directly to the chat. So if they wanted to add it now, they could.
Okay, awesome. Thank you. And this is just, I'm not going to go through it and show you. It is for your reference. It is a bunch of guides and tools that you can look for and view after today. Okay, so just that quickly, I'm out of the slides and I'm going to go in and start showing you the tools. Rosemary, as I'm showing, if people have questions, just kind of stop me and I can, if it's a quick one, I can ask or answer.
I've got you covered. Absolutely.
Okay, so I just have a News Ella site pulled up. You can see all of my extensions up here. I was comparing what I have up here compared to Rosemary. But when I'm on the web and I want to access Read and Write, I just go to the little purple puzzle piece and I click on it and it pops up. The first thing I will tell you is that you can move it. That makes this incredibly accessible. Other extensions, you pop them open and they stay stagnant and put right where they are. So that's the first piece of this being accessible to students. Over here are options, and I can come in, or students can come in and change all of these different features. Now, there is a link also to, let me see, yeah, to this Read and Write quick guide for all of you. And on this Read and Write, geez, Pete, I was in speech therapy for years, so saying Read and Write is hard for me. But you can come to this one, and it will take you to the settings menu, how to change the settings, what the settings are, why a student might need it changed, some classroom ideas. So I'm not going to go through all that because I want to dive into the tools, but know that this is available to you. The Curriculum Access team, we have all sorts of quick guides available, just like the Learning Technology team does. So know that the options are in there for you to change. I'm going to work left to right on this toolbar. I think that that's easier for people. Some of the tools I may skip because they are not for the web, but they are more for a PDF or for a document. So the very first one, I'm going to skip this. That's word prediction. And I'm going to come to hover speech. Watch what happens to the toolbar when I click hover speech. It all grays out. So I can't access the highlighting tools or the translator when I'm on hover speech. I click off hover speech and they're all accessible again. So I click hover and I come down and I'm truly just hovering.
Instructions to make
my hands, I don't know if you can see my hands, but I'm not clicking on anything.
You're supposed to dip your candy stick in sugar at the start of the process. Doesn't
the first mistake that I made when using hover speech was I would click on it and everything is grayed out. I would forget that these tools aren't accessible. The other thing that students will do is they will click hover speech and they'll start clicking here and then move it here and move the cursor all over the place. And that does not allow the tool to know where you want it to read. So I truly teach students, and it takes...
Make your own rock.
Let me get off of there. I truly teach students to hover and then pull their hands back. And then just kind of sit back, and depending how they immerse in the text is what they may do. Next, they may read aloud with it. They may follow along, depending upon each student's needs. These next two are dictionaries. So I will click on a word, and the picture dictionary pops up a pretty simplistic picture. And that is intentional by the makers of the company. If you wanted more intense pictures, you could do something different. But these pictures mimic Boardmaker, if you're familiar with that tool. While the picture dictionary is up, I can still move it around. I can also pull up the word dictionary, and it will read to me if I click on it.
Noun, a sweet type of food that is made mainly from sugar or chocolate. I would love some candy.
And again, all of these tools can be moved. Now, here is one of my favorite things. I love, think of your EL kiddos. I have the word dictionary up. I have an image, which is huge for our kids who are not native English speakers. I can also come to translator, and I have mine defaulted to Spanish, and you can see the different dialects.
Dulce. Caramelo.
So I can, if I were an EL kiddo, I could hear the word in my home language.
Dulce.
I could hear the definition in English, and then I can see that picture. Ah, how amazing. I hope you're all like smiling right now because I love that. If Spanish is not the language that your student needs, they can go to options and they can come here and, or speech, sorry, and they can change the language. If you see here, as I'm scrolling, they have over 200 languages. They would be the first company to say if there was a language not in there that you needed for your students, they would be happy to work on it. Text Help in Cincinnati Public Schools has a very, very tight-knit relationship. So we're super lucky about that. Okay, this one's Play, and I'm going to skip it because it is what Play does is it reads all the text. So it would come up here and read 820, assign. It would read everything on the page. I teach students the best tool for reading is that hover. Play is, now, of course, our kids will actually play with it, and it will be to the point that it kind of bothers them so much they'll learn to use hover. But hover is the tool really for reading. This next one is a screenshot reader, and that is this little purple, I think it's a bird. I'm not sure really what it is. So that
I call it bird too.
call it a bird too. That needs to be installed. And again, we're working at the district level to get that pushed out to everybody. But if you don't have it installed, all you need to do is go to the Chrome Web Store, type in Read and Write, and you have to use the ampersand. You cannot use the word and. And
It's also linked in the chat.
Oh, awesome. Okay, so all three of those pop up. Thank you. Then I will just move on. Thank you for sharing that. So let me go see this text here underneath this image, and that's what Rosemary was talking about. It's not accessible. And we know our students, if your students in your class are anything like my kiddos, they will not read the bottom of a chart, text within a chart, a diagram. They probably will say they read it, but they may not have. So if you go to the screenshot reader and then you just take a little, oh, I hope that works. That is a weird image, those lines there. Let's see.
Image 2. Dipping the wooden sticks in sugar will create seed crystals.
So you can see that is reading that text underneath. So it makes it accessible to our kids. What we know about accessibility is 9 in 10 adults, and our kids are going to be adults, 9 in 10 adults use the internet every day. And out of those, 1 in 5 individuals have a disability that makes the internet, for some reason, for each individual, limiting. It could be vision, it could be hearing, it could be a cognitive disability. So this here is incredibly important. I can replay that if I want.
2. Dipping the wooden sticks in.
Once I click off of it, though, if I wanted it back, I would need to go and make a new one. This next one, Audio Maker, I can, what's going on here? I can, for the Audio Maker, highlight some text. I just want to get a little bit of text. Come up to the Audio Maker, and what that does, you can see it kind of working right there. It downloads an MP3.
Oh. Key step in making rock candy is
and it will read that MP3 to you. So for some students, they may need to hear that text read before they actually dive into reading themselves. I know other teachers have taken that MP3 link and linked it into Schoology for students to do pre-reading, for students who may need to do rereadings of certain text. So that's the Audio Maker. This next one is the Screen Mask, and I love this one. It takes and makes what we would call like a bookmark, and I can go through and follow along as it's reading. Over here, you can see this. I can move that along. I can change the settings. So let's say I don't want purple, I want yellow. I can change the settings of the background. I can also change the reading height. So maybe a student needs to focus on only a paragraph, or if you have a kid that needs to focus solely on a sentence. So you can see how that works. I'm going to click OK. I can also click hover speech.
A key step in making rock candy is
oh goodness, what happened to my screen?
Sugar before potting it.
Well, that has never happened before. Let me refresh my screen. I often love to do tech trainings and then the tech not work or somehow, I don't know, do something funky.
Hey, Joelle, we do have a question that
Yep.
the extension with Microsoft and using it with Word documents and things like that, that is a separate extension to add. But do you have anything to add for how they would do that? Because I did see that the extension link that I dropped, it is a Microsoft link. So just a heads up, and I think we might still have Megan in here. No, maybe not. But so if something has to be installed in Microsoft, it may have to go through our ATI process, but do you have anything else to add with the Microsoft?
I don't. We were in the process of putting, I believe, Julie Bassett, who's a member of the curriculum access team, was putting in an ATI for the Read and Write for Microsoft, because we know how important that is for our kiddos in 7th and 8th and whatnot.
Yeah, we've got a Moss teacher, Matt, is asking about Gmetrics and Microsoft and things like that. So yes, Matt, it's in the works. Yes, the tool does have the capability, but we always have to remember, what do we have available in our district? So good call out, Matt. Thanks.
Thanks, Matt. So that was the screen mask. And what I was getting ready to show you, and I will move on, but I can have screen mask working and I can have the hover speech. So it will read the text while I am able to focus and follow along with that screen mask. I think that is a huge game changer for a lot of our students who have a difficult time following along and with focus. This next tool here is the web search, and it truly defaults, because this is a Chrome extension, it defaults right to a Google search of whatever the word is that you pulled up. So if you have kids who are working on research, you can have them click and they could have a whole, some tabs open. I often have way too many tabs open. You can see that, but tabs open of whatever they are researching. This one was the translating tool. These next tools are the highlighters, and I'm here to tell you these are the big winner of this Read and Write tool as a whole. The opportunities are absolutely endless. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to show you how to make a vocabulary document. So I'm going to click on a word. Sorry, what is going on? Maybe I'll highlight the word. Sorry, I'm in my daughter's room and I don't have space for a mouse. So I'm trying to do my best here. So I'm clicking on a word and I'm highlighting it. And I'm going to show you that it doesn't match. Jeez. I'm going to refresh the screen. Sorry, guys. I'm not sure what is going on all of a sudden with my laptop. Don't worry, though. You know, just like if we were in the classroom, we would tell our kids to persevere and carry on. So let's try that again. Let me highlight a word. Rosemary, I do not know what's happening with my laptop here.
If you want me to demonstrate the highlight features, I could present, or whatever you want. Your call.
Yeah, I don't know what's going on. Let me try one. Let me hop into and see if it will do it over here. Okay, I should be good. So
okay, just let me know if I've got something queued up if you need me to. I've got my go-to cheetah article from National Geographic when I train on this.
Okay, why don't you go ahead, because my laptop is, I don't know what's going on. It shouldn't be doing this, but I don't want to waste time, and I know we're at 11:33. So if you let me stop sharing and we can kind of talk through it together. And everyone, I totally apologize, because this is my new, not my new, but this is my favorite part of the whole tool.
I already put it in the chat, like I couldn't even resist. I'm keeping my microphone quiet, but it's my absolute favorite tool in this. So if I'm on a screen of text, and I always like to give this example because this was a real classroom example for me when I taught 3rd grade. We did a animal research unit, and the National Geographic resources are great, but the readability was always just a little outside of the stretch of my 2nd and 3rd grade students. So if I open up my Read and Write tool, And Joelle, you can stay unmuted and hop in anytime. And let's say that I want to highlight some words. Now, what I could actually do is say something like highlight all of the adjectives in yellow. So I'm going to highlight those. I could say highlight nouns in green. So here we go. Here's some green. I could say highlight words you don't understand or you need help with in blue. So I might, as a student, highlight those words I don't understand in blue. Whatever rules you want to make, you can give them this, or you could highlight some words. And Joelle, am I jumping ahead too quick? Are we good?
No, I think you're okay. So I think that what you showed them is you're not going to use that one. You'll use the one right to the right of it, Rosemary.
Well, I want to use this first. I'm going to show, because this is the big wow.
Oh, okay.
So the first one I could do is just literally gather my highlights. And so it's going to give me all the colors. You'll notice I didn't use pink, so I can unselect it if I wanted to. So I'm just going to hit OK. And it does a basic. What it does is just give me a collection of my highlighted tool or my highlighted words on a document, color coded, and then with a link to the article that I got it from and my username. So if I wanted to have like a word sort activity, I could sort these words in advance. And I like this as a classroom teacher. I like to preload a list of highlighted words and give them some examples and then have them extend it. But it gets better than that. So if you have all your highlighted words, and just for fun, I'll go ahead and make one pink. So my favorite tool on here is this one right here. Now it's not colored, I wish it was, but it is the vocabulary builder. So I'm going to click on that. And what it's doing, instead of just gathering my highlights and making a list, y'all watch this. It's gathering my highlights and making a vocabulary list. So this is a tool you could use as a classroom teacher, and you could pre-pull vocabulary lists, or you can have your students do it. But what I love about this is it gives the definition. So from the Read and Write tool, it gives the definition. It gives a picture symbol. So from the picture dictionary, it pulls that in, and it gives a notes field. Some ways that I use this in a much more early learning situation, like early elementary, I might just say, write a complete sentence using this word. If I want to challenge maybe 4th, 5th grade readers, I might say, look back at the paragraph and which meaning of the word did the author intend for the word in that context? So you can see that this becomes a really open-ended instructional tool for you to use. And then I'm going to mute now because I know Joelle has some awesome things to share from her insight with this.
Rosemary, will you leave your document up, your vocab document, and I'll just talk through it?
Yep.
So one of the things that I love is the way that the symbols look. I think they're very simplistic. I think they're easy. However, did you happen to use a word that didn't have a symbol in it? Will you scroll down?
Let's see. I may not have. I went pretty basic. I went to my early primary.
Okay, that's okay. So let's take out the thumb for excellent.
Just remove it. Okay.
Yep. So what you can do for students is one of two things. So that was the picture that it carried over. But let's say that picture doesn't resonate for a student. We know how imagery is so important for our students. So that thumb meant nothing, but you can have students and you can teach them to insert their own images. So Rosemary, if you go up to insert image, and then you can search the web or whatever if you have one from the computer, and kids can then type in the word excellent, and they can choose their own image that means.
They could also, even if they couldn't spell it, they could also, we can just teach them to copy and paste. Because if they misspell it, then they could get weird things. So let's say that as a student, what speaks to me for excellent? So many things, right? 5 stars. I'm going to check that one and I'm going to click insert. Oh, and I'm sorry, it's because I had my cursor in there. Let me undo that. Delete. So did you notice though, because I copied it, my cursor needs to be where I want to insert. I can always move it, but I don't want to do that. So search the web, excellent. Here's my picture. Oops. and I'm going to insert that. And now it is inserted. One thing that's great about Google, because it's in a table, it auto-sized for you, so it fits. It doesn't mess up the formatting.
Yep, I love that option. And I think, and this is distinguished stage 2, so I'm certain everybody knows about sharing and whatnot. So I don't think we need to go through that. Am I correct?
Yes. So this was labeled as a distinguished educator stage 2 training.
Okay. The other thing, Rosemary showed you how you could do like a word search, collecting highlights by parts of speech. You could also go into a website, and for students who are beginning to write papers or do research, they can collect highlights of, let's say, everything about the size of the cheetah, they highlight it in yellow, or everything about what they eat, they highlight in green. And it will carry your highlights over in that way too. So more than just words, as she was showing, you can also bring over paragraphs of text, and in any order, it doesn't matter. And what that will do, it will bring that over into the document. And then that is the beginning of how students can organize their writing. I know I've had gen ed teachers say to me before, but Joelle, isn't that cheating? Aren't they? So she highlighted everything in yellow, so it pulled in yellow. But if she would have highlighted in different colors, just so you know, it will pull it in different colors. So no, that isn't cheating. What it's doing is showing students a way to organize their work. And it is having you as the teacher this amazing opportunity to now help students take writing and or text that they are reading and turn it into their own ideas and their own writing. I kind of joke with people sometimes. I'm super old. I'm 52. I learned to write papers by encyclopedias. So at some time, my 4th through 8th grade teachers taught me how to take that information and reword it and learn from it. So it's the same thing, but it is a heck of a lot more accessible.
It is. I also like that these tools pull over the direct link. So when it comes to sourcing, now you'll notice that this vocabulary list did not. So I recommend that we use these in conjunction. Vocabulary did not bring over where the source was from. So just a little to know, but gather highlights does. It brings over the source.
Okay. Do you want me to present, or do you want to keep going? Do you want to share them?
I think unless you need me to, I'd rather hand it off to you.
Okay. Hopefully it'll work. And thank you everybody for your patience, knowing that sometimes things go a little wacky. There's one more tool that I really want to be able to take time to share with you. Actually, there's probably more than one. Let me clear this highlights off. This tool here is the Simplify page tool. And this is pretty important for kids who get easily distracted. I click here, and what it does is it takes that same exact article and it takes off all of the stuff, if you will. So this little thing here that said annotation, blah, 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 it takes that off and it comes over as a black and white article. You can copy and paste that link. Students can also change the text and font color. They love that one. Sorry, if you're anything like me, that just hurt your eyes. The other thing that I love about this, and this was a pretty simple article, so I'm not sure how well it will do, but I can come to Simplify here. And what it does is it takes away text and it simplifies the reading here. Now, it doesn't go by Lexile, I will be honest, but what I like to teach students to do who are readers that might be struggling a little bit is to take that same article that their peers are using in the classroom. And even though this was a News Ella site where you can Lexile it, I can take this, the same exact article, the same exact text, and I can simplify it, and students can then work to read the same exact article as their classmates are doing. So that's Simplify. The one last tool here, no, I think I have everything. I got everything. Yep.
You covered all the tools. I know you showed it very quickly, but because Read&Write is available pre-K through 12, would you revisit the customization and just show folks how if you have a student who either, there's a couple different ways you could do this. You may want to customize the toolbar because you only want to focus on using very specific tools, or you may have a child with specific needs where that is overwhelming and they need it reduced. You also might have a very young child who needs it reduced. So can you show how I can customize that toolbar by user?
Yep. And so remember, you'll have a link that will show you how to do all that on your own, but I can change the voice that I want it read to me in. So that's the first thing I can do. Word prediction, and we are so going to be past our time. Word prediction is a tool that is used on agreement.
10 till, we're good.
What?
As long as we stop by 10 till for questions, we're good.
Okay. Word prediction is on a Word doc, and it defaults to having 10 words. Let me see if I can hurry up and pull a doc up. I normally have one up already, so I apologize. I should have just gone into the words. Okay. Man, that is funky today. Word prediction is here. I click on word prediction and it automatically defaults to 10 words. But like I was showing you in the settings, I can change that. Some students may just need 3. Other kids may need 10. I can click on the word and it will read it.
B. 2. Of.
It's also intuitive. So as a student starts writing their paper or typing, it will start to know what you're talking about. So if I start talking about football and going to the game and type a letter S, it might start to predict words like stadium. So it is intuitive in that manner.
Yeah, and I will just kind of back that up. If you've not played with the word prediction, because remember this tool is Read&Write, and that is a writing assistive tool. Even if you don't need the assistance with writing, just looking at what a good word would be. But I was blown away. Like it'll give me a list of an appropriate adjective when I'm writing something, or it'll give me. It's very in context. And for those of you nerds like me, what this actually is a form of AI built into this tool. So this is reading the words and predicting what you might want based on, and Google has so many other awesome tools that Joelle presents on that have the AI prediction built in. But just play around with this prediction tool because it's not something you would just need at a primary or special needs level. Right. I could see this tool across pre-K to 12.
Oh, it helps students with writing immensely. One fun way to teach word prediction and to show students how to use it is to have them write a paragraph or 2, depending upon how old they may be, and they're only allowed to use word prediction.
Yeah.
So that's a super fun one.
And that's a fun way to have them practice using the screen reading tool.
Oh, absolutely. Language, I can switch to my languages. Here, I can go into features and I can turn off certain features. Now, mind you, this is going to be unique to the student who is signed into Chrome.
So user, and Joelle, that's a really important point for you to call out. So folks, you can't change this for all your students, but you can. So when I taught primary and I did tools like this, I did just the over the shoulder, or I gave a parent guide. But this one in particular for early learners, I would turn off at least half of these, or for students. So Joelle, go ahead and speak to that a little more. But I think that this is one of the most important things as we're looking into early learning and extending the use of this all the way down pre-K and above.
So for our early learners, absolutely. And I might even go one step further and only leave one on and teach it well, so that students know how to use it, and then kind of teach each tool and turn them on at that time. I probably wouldn't have for our early learners like 5 tools, 8 tools available, and just kind of go over them. I think that, but you guys are all distinguished educators, so you know about good teaching and modeling. So I would probably turn many of them off for sure. I'd get play on out of there immediately.
All right, we are at 11:50, and so, well, I got 2 clocks with different times. We're real close. So, Joelle, is there any last minute things you want to show? And if not, I'm going to drop in the contact hours and feedback form, and then open up the mics for questions.
Yeah, give me like the last 1 minute to get right to 11:50.
Yeah.
So I'm in Schoology right now. I just want to show you, and I dropped this in earlier. This is a PDF. So Read and Write does work, and it has those same tools that are accessible on a PDF. So right now, if you give your students this link in Schoology, that's great. It's accessible as in they can click on it, but it's not accessible because many students may not be benefiting from the tool. So I need to have the PDF reader installed. And again, we're working on getting those 2 installed. I go to Open With, and I come down to Open it with Read and Write. And now I can use this PDF and Read and Write together. All of the tools pop up right here.
Oh, that was, I can't believe we almost skipped that, because folks, we do have people who are submitting their evidence, and they're showing a link, and yes, the link works. It opens in the browser, you can see it. But when we talk about accessible links, we want to talk about how the learner can interact with the link. I'm also a big advocate for giving context to content. So I wouldn't personally recommend that you drop just a link. I would put that in a page, attach it to assignment or to an update, and give them some context, some information. But then especially what Joelle just showed, PDFs are not accessible unless you use that part of that tool. And the link that I dropped in the chat for you, you could push that out to your class and have everybody add it manually until we get there. Our hope is that it'll be added by the time we come back in August. Anything else on that, Joelle?
No, the first link I just popped in there is the link to my quick guide that really is a broad overview. The second one that I just popped in is another quick guide on how to use that PDF reader.
All right. If it's okay with you, I'm going to start presenting. So could you, exit yours. And I'm just going to go through our closing and get our feedback link done. So I'm going to drop a link in the chat to our contact hours and feedback form. I am dropping that now. All right, and if you scroll down, click on that link. Just want to run through a couple quick things with you on the form. Just remember, you do need to put your last and first name and your employee ID number if you are wanting this to reflect your contact hour. So make sure you put in that employee ID number. Someone did change that to a required field, but if you don't need the contact hours, you can always just put an NA in there. Put your role, your school or schools. Oh, sorry. And here we go. So we looked at a couple of things today. We looked at the distinguished educator because we focused on those stage 2 skills. We looked at the 2 explicit practice statements that name, read, and write. And we looked at 2 other practice statements that implicitly imply you should be using read and write. We did, sorry, we didn't go into Schoology. I actually don't think read and write is listed on here. So we haven't done a lot on that. Joelle has a ton of material on Read and Write. So you can go ahead and put in Google because Read and Write is a Google Chrome extension. So click Distinguished Educator Program and Google.
You want them to write in other and write, read and write?
You know what? Let's do that. Yes, please. Yeah. Let's check other and put read, ampersand, write as one word. Just to get you in that habit if that is the name of the tool. Read, ampersand, write as one word. Thanks, Joelle. Indicate your school or schools. And then down here, if you can believe it already, it is July 8th. This session was 11 a.m. The type of training, if you are with us right now live, you joined a virtual PD session, video conference, so you can select that. However, if you're watching this later on my YouTube channel, just go down to the bottom and select viewed a recorded virtual PD session. This was a 30-minute to 1 hour session. My name is my name is not Tracy Keogh. My name is Rosemary Jane, and please do click other and input Joelle McConnell. If I can spell her name right. And it's McConnell.
Lots of doubles.
Yeah, get all our letters in there. Everyone matters. So it's Joelle McConnell. You will rate the training today. And then if you have any additional questions or comments, you can put them in. Please keep in mind that these are about the general PD format. If you want to reach myself, I do recommend you go to chat. The easiest way to get there, you can either type in chat or in the Google Waffle if you're signed in and syncing. Go to chat right there. You can find me by looking in the upper right-hand corner, or excuse me, upper left-hand corner, and put in my name, Rosemary Jane. That is the best way to reach me in the district. Joelle did include at the end of her slide her preferred contact method. So if you want to contact Joelle, that's on slide 8. And all right, just a heads up that this is a link if you want to look at more virtual PD sessions offered by my team, Learning Technologies team. You can click there. This is a link to our Tech Talk Schoology course. And of course, if you're having any kind of technical difficulties or need any help, our ITM help email is there. So that's all I have. You are welcome now at this time to use your best netiquette, and I'll go ahead and keep presenting in case we need to show something. But if you have a question that you want to share, you can call that out now.
Natalie had a question about, is there a way for students to type annotations as they read and save them? And the answer to that is yes. There's a lot that happens in that PDF reader that I didn't have time to show, but for sure I have listed 2 different ways you can contact me in the chat. You can contact me through the Curriculum Access Team, just contact form, or you can just shoot me an email. I'm good either way. And I'd be happy to meet with you. And Rosemary, maybe we could just even pop on another training for to go through the PDF reader, because I
would really love to do a Read and Write deeper dive where we get into those settings more, and definitely the PDF reader. So I think you guys can plan on seeing that. You know, I'm I'll defer to Joelle's schedule, but you can probably plan on that in the next few weeks, and it'll be on our virtual PD offerings. These are also copied over to the Teaching and Learning calendar by our Office of Curriculum.
Yeah, I'm happy to do that. Does anybody else have any questions? There weren't any in the chat.
There are not. So it looks like we are done. I'm going to stop the recording.